Hi and welcome to E-ZTutoring. Today we're going to cover how to find the domain and range of a square root function in interval notation. So starting off with the domain. By the way, I'm going to assume you guys know how to graph them because your first step is you must graph it and then we can find our domain and range. If you guys are not familiar with how to graph it, be sure to check out my video on it. Alright, so finding domain, what we need to do is we need to look at all of the possible x values. So what we do is we look at the x-axis and we see where this function is on the x-axis. And we can see that the function starts here and goes here, 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 and goes on like this forever because there's an arrow towards the right. So we're looking at all of the possible x values. So obviously for your x values on your x-axis, it goes towards the right forever. Never stops going that way. So our highest value is going to be infinity. Now let's look at our lowest value. Our lowest value is over here, and this point right here has an x value of 0. So 0 is our lowest possible x value. So from 0 to infinity. Now the question is, do we put parentheses or do we put brackets? So parentheses, this means that it excludes that point, and brackets means that it includes that point. Simple enough. So at infinity, you can't really say whether it includes or excludes. Since infinity is kind of a concept, you will always put a parenthesis on it. This is standard. Whenever you find your domain and range in interval notation, you will always put parentheses on infinity. Now let's look at 0. Do we include or exclude 0? Well, at 0, at x equals 0, there is an actual point on this graph. So that means that we can actually plug in 0 into this function and actually return us a number. So therefore, 0 is included. What is the case where you may put a parenthesis on 0, you might be asking? Let's say that this right here were not a point. Let's say that that right there was a hole. If that was a hole, then you couldn't actually plug in 0 and get an actual point on this graph. However, you could plug in 0.1 and get a point, which would be right there. So therefore, you would exclude 0, and you would say that everything except 0 is in your domain, and that's where you would put a parenthesis. However, since we have a solid point, we will put a bracket, just like we did over there. I guess a way you can think about it is parentheses you will put on holes, brackets you will put on points. However, it's not always like that, so majority of the time it is. So I don't want you guys to rely on that. Anyways, let's do our range now. Let's look at our lowest and at our highest y values. So now we are looking at the y-axis. We are looking at all the values on the y-axis. So obviously the function goes that way forever. It doesn't go just towards the right like that. It kind of branches off towards the top right like that, right? So therefore, when it goes towards the top right like that, it will eventually go up, 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 up forever. It will never stop going up and towards the right. So therefore, the highest value is infinity because it never stops going up. All right, what is our lowest y value? Well, looking at the y values and looking at the lowest one, we have to look right over there. And that point has a y coordinate of 1. So therefore, 1 is our lowest y value for our range. By the way, if you guys haven't already noticed, domain is x values, range is y values. So now we have to think, does it include or exclude 1? It obviously includes it because there is an actual point there, not a hole. We can actually plug in a 1 for our y value, and there's an actual point on the graph. All right. So therefore 1 will get a bracket because it is included, and infinity, like I said, infinity is always going to get parentheses. So this is your domain and range of a square root function. That is how you do it, guys. Hope that made sense to you guys. If you guys ever want ACT or SAT help, be sure to visit my website, www.e-ztutoring.com. Thank you guys and have a good day.